Hey YouTube world, just wanted to throw together a quick video going over the modifications that I've done in my Z125 Pro. Not to replicate what you see online already, but just to kind of go over the pros and cons. The simplest and probably the cheapest mod you can do outside of just, eBay, bar and mirrors and whatnot is the G2 quick turn throttle. So it's about a quarter turn throttle, if that. You get that from maninthebox.com. Absolutely fantastic upgrade. I mean, this thing is kind of sluggish otherwise, and when you use it, you've really got to really crank that wrist to get it to turn. With this, that's it. That's full throttle. So the response is much better. Absolutely love that upgrade. Highly recommended. Moving on to the Olin suspension. I would point out that when you do suspension mods, that you definitely hold on to your stock shock. At some point, this one will need to be serviced, so you'll have to have something to throw into the bike to support the back end. So just go ahead and keep it. They're not worth much even on eBay when you're selling them. The Olin's internals for the front fork are fantastic. I will point out that I'm right at 200 pounds, and I probably could have gone with a split of the lighter and heavier duty springs. Not that it's bad, but if you're basically under 200 pounds, I definitely would go with a mix, if not just the lighter springs. The bike definitely does not squat like it used to. It actually feels a lot lighter because the center of gravity is up higher, and it's a fantastic upgrade. So highly recommend the Olin's. No complaints there. If you do the fork upgrade, make sure you get the soft blocks. It makes changing the internals much easier as well as safer for protecting your forks. Moving on to the rear sets and crash guards. Really nothing special there. But I will say I'm not crazy about the Area 22 rear sets. Not the best design. I actually prefer stock better. So if these crap out, I'll probably go back to stock. If not, switch to something more like Driven. Or I think Mad Moto on eBay had one that looked like it might be a pretty good option. On the clutch side, the mechanisms actually kind of impede its own movement. So not the best design. I have a feeling these are probably just slightly modified versions of a previous gen for whatever other model, and they've made it work. So not exactly crazy about it. Moving on to the works exhaust, EN187's got a great video on that, so you can check his for the install and kind of the follow-up, the ride to get the sound. I will say it's fantastic. The underbody, it's completely protected, so if you go down, left, or right, you're not going to have to worry about it. When you pull the stock exhaust, and I cannot stress this enough, make sure that you hit that sucker, the stock O2 sensor, with something like PB Blaster, let it soak for a while, and then heat that pipe up nice and hot, get the bike running, and then see if it'll come out. There's a lot of chatter online about the stock O2s either being cross-threaded. I don't know if they're not applying enough or any at all of the anti-seize compound, but mine snapped off, and that was just using a crescent wrench. So it's a bitch. I got them to warranty it out, thankfully, because that is a $238 O2 sensor. Yes, you heard me right, $238. Stupidly expensive for a cheap-ass little narrow-band O2 sensor. Moving on from that, so I've done the Bazaz ZFI as well as the ZAFM. And there's a couple pointers on the Z that I want to kind of hit on. I actually kind of wish I had done the Power Commander, simply because this unit is so much bulkier. It takes up a bit of space. I believe the Power Commander is actually quite a bit smaller. At least it doesn't have this section, so I think it slips in here a lot better. The ZFM isn't too bad, but one thing with the Bazaz that I found out after the fact is that you have to retain the stock O2 sensor. So there is their adapter that still plugs into the stocker. But even running the ZAFM, I still have to tuck the stock O2 sensor into the bike. Otherwise, it throws a constant engine code. Why this is an issue for Bazaz and it is not an issue for Power Commander is beyond me. I'm sure it has something to do with basically how they engineer the product and the algorithms. But they told me when I called them that they could not basically work around it. Whereas I know in the Power Commander there is a kill plug for it essentially. Otherwise, the Bazaz is super easy to use. That's the great thing about it, is that their interface is just super simple, nothing really hard to figure out. and just walk around the rest of the bike here. So you can see the other little tidbits that I've done. So I've also done the Chimera Air Intake, so the ram air essentially. The nice thing about the Chimera is that it actually, you plug the crankcase breather hose directly into the Chimera, so it still gets filtered air, unlike some where you've got basically a rubber hose and you can either tuck it up under the tank, but it's still, obviously if you don't put a filter on the end of it, it's still going to be sucking air. Could be sucking a lot of dirt, especially depending if you're going through a dusty area. So it's always good to have that filtered. With the Chimera, you basically just plug it in and you're good to go. Another thing I want to point out in the Bazzaz, and I don't know if it's the same way with the Power Commander, is that the Bazzaz harnesses are extremely tight. There is not a lot of give, so make sure you thread this sucker correctly. I would pre-string it before you finally start doing the final connections. For whatever reason, Bazzaz has it to where there's like no play whatsoever. So it's one thing I'm not exactly crazy about. I would have liked at least another inch in the overall harness. So I would suggest you definitely feed it up underneath the subframe, run it down underneath through here, and then to the various components. And one thing I want to hit on when you're doing, if you do the Bazzaz, Man in the Box has done an install video, and for whatever reason, in the install video, they tell you to tap into the wrong hot wire. So your Z125 will not power up, and even though they've had multiple comments on their channel for that install, people pointing out over and over again that it is not the middle wire, it is actually the right wire. I've got them covered up so I can't remember the coloration. Do not tap into do not follow the video basically. Moral of the story is always make sure you read the instructions first. Don't go by video reviews without double checking it with what is actually in the install instructions. I found another way to power it. I was able to repair the wiring, but obviously when you jack up the wiring you're kind of screwed. Scotch locks and the like, you know, it's a once and done thing. So why Man in the Box refuses, or at least has yet to, at least the last I saw, they have yet to update their video to actually show the correct wire. But I don't know if they don't read their comments or what, but read the instructions. Otherwise you're going to have to figure out a way to work around this, as well as repair your wiring that you've just run a tap through. Outside of that, I think that's about all the mods that I really want to hit on and kind of get into bad. If you do end up screwing up your wiring harness, you can actually, Hard Racing actually has a video basically how it shows how they run power to their fuel commander, or power commander, sorry, in the actual little fuse panel. It's buried in there. I'm not going to dig it all out. As you can see, the Bazzaz just has a lot of crap taking up space. But there's a way to actually tap into the hot in your for your lights to still get power to this. But you got to be good with electrical wiring. I actually had to solder the tip just to make sure it didn't fray, and then you have to make sure you put it into the right fuse, the right side, and all that. It's not hard, but it's just a pain in the ass since I was not smart enough to read the instructions before watching the video. So anyway, learn from my mistake and others. Our poor blue wire, I believe it is, has been tortured, but it's been repaired. So but there's the beast, as I lovingly call it. So the mods are in. I'm pretty much done with this. Other than that, it's a fantastic bike for all of you that have it. So enjoy it, and we'll see you on the road hopefully.